As you saw in the last video, the engine pulley on this thing was way too big. This was the pulley I took off the engine. Pretty good sized pulley. And I had no power and it went too fast. When I did get it moving, it really hustled. So I found a smaller pulley. That's about the smallest I could find that'll fit this shaft. And if I have to, I could probably get a 9-inch pulley for here if I need to. The tire is 10 inches. And I don't want to go obviously larger than the tire because this will hit the ground. But like I say, I could add an inch to it. But anyway, I got that pulley on, got the belt adjusted. It slides on there pretty easy, and then yet it tensions up and tightens. So I just had to readjust some of the cable, and like I say, get a belt that was a little shorter. This is the belt now. It's 3/8 by 38 1/8, and I think the one I had on with that bigger pulley was 40 1/8. So yeah, it's hopefully going to have more power and go slower. So I'm going to take it out. It's kind of cold out, but we're going to take it out and see what happens. Yeah, it's super windy and cold out, but let's see. I don't know if I can work everything here or not, but we're going to try. Yep, that works. Got the flywheel off, and this is where I'm gonna hook up a wire to the points to stop the engine, and I'm just gonna run it up through behind things so it doesn't get caught in anything, and try and run it out through where the spark plug wire right there, and then I'll just kind of route it up maybe through the cooling fins, or we'll figure out a way to get it up here, because this is where I'm going to make the stop. I'm cleaning the recoil stuff out here. I got that bushing all nice and clean in there. You can see a little chunk missing there, but that shouldn't hurt anything. There's still a thing for the spring. That's where the spring catches. The guy said he had these, but without that chunk missing, but the screw holes were stripped, which is common, and they're hard to put a little helicoil in. But anyway, that's all. Looks good, and that won't affect it whatsoever because there's no bushing there. And then I cleaned this out and buffed it up, and I took this out and cleaned it in lacquer thinner and squirted it out with brake clean. Get all the old dirt and oil and crud out of it so it can absorb oil. I cleaned the balls up because they had a little bit of sticky stuff on them, and cleaned this, made sure everything was nice and clean here. And I got my oil here, so I'm going to start putting the recoil stuff together. This is the original. It has that little foam thing in there too, so that I could clean that up and it would probably work. You can see it has an L stamp there, which means it's left-hand thread. This has an L on it too, right there, but it's kind of just there. But I'll put this with the original starter stuff here, and we'll get this recoil together and installed. Starter ratchet's installed. And I oiled it liberally. You got to use this type of oil can tip, and then you just push it on over the bearing there and give it a pump. It's hard to pump, but it definitely goes in there. And then that wick thing, I soaked it in oil and oiled everything up before I put it together. But that is, I think, good. So let me put the recoil and the rope on, and then we'll put the spring on and try it out. There we go. The recoil's installed. You can see it pulls the motor over and works. And I ran a kill wire out. This will go on there once the paint's good and dry. And I also picked this up. Thought I'd stick this on it somewhere. I think it's kind of neat. And I also got this decal. I originally got this, I thought I'd put it on the front here, but it doesn't, it's too big, too tall to fit there. I could trim it, I guess. I don't know. We'll worry about that closer to when I get ready to do something there. But if I hold that bottom part kind of even with the bottom of that edge there, this bottom part here, the top part doesn't clear that, so it's like a 1/8 of an inch too tall. I might be able to trim it, but I kind of like it on the gas tank. There is where I was thinking. And I don't know, we'll put this on maybe on the engine plate somewhere. We'll put it somewhere, you know, to where it's not terribly visible. But I don't know, I just thought it'd be fun to put it on. So I did get a few decals for the mower, for the Trikeabout. I'm working on hooking up the throttle and governor control. I got the cable kind of, it's just setting in there. I didn't pinch that over yet because this has all got to come apart to paint. But you can kind of see what I'm doing here. And what I'm going to do is put some loops in this and put a spring between this and this. So I'm going to go down in the basement and hunt around and see if I have an old governor control spring for a lawnmower. And that will be, I'll determine where to make the cable cut when I get the spring. And I can adjust this in and out a little bit. Found the stainless steel dress-up washer. And I was able to bend it and use that to hold the cable in place, and it works pretty good. That screw is stainless steel. I'll put a nylock on it eventually. I just didn't have one. I'll get a stainless steel nylock. And but yeah, it looks good the way it is. I also found this little thing here for cables that I've had in my part. It needs a new screw because the screw head's messed up, or I can clean the screw head up. But that kind of neatens up the cables, and I run the throttle cable over the top of those two cables, and it holds everything out of the way. The kill wire, I was going to put a little barrel-like thing on the cable with something like this, you know, insulated somehow, so this would touch that, or something like one of those to shut the engine off up here. But I'm thinking I'm going to drill a little tiny hole in the frame here, feed the wire up through here, and drill maybe a 1/4 inch hole here and run the wire out there so that when it shuts off, it touches, you know, I'll put maybe this there somehow so it's insulated, so this isn't to ground. So when it touches that, it, you know, like make it so it's close to there, so when it touches it, it grounds it out and pushes it down just a tad bit, a little bit of, sorry, I'm not pointing the camera at things. So I'm not looking at the camera. The view screen is so small on it, so I usually just look at what I'm doing when I'm yapping and holding things. But kind of, you know, so it pushes on that a little bit. But I think that's where the kill is going to be. I think it would just look neater than having a cobbled wire thing, and I can just, I got more wire, so that's not a problem. I kind of, it left some extra out where the spark plug wire comes out. So that's where this is actually coming out, where the spark plug wire comes out for the thing. So I can take the blower housing back off and route that wire, get a little more wire out of it, and run it up through the frame right up to here. And I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. A bit of a hunt. This is what I was looking for. This is a governor control spring to a Briggs 6BHS. That's the part number, I believe, for it. That's the package it was in anyway. And I found this because eventually I'm going to put probably a little short nipple, a 90 degree, and then I'll put this with a pipe cap on it just to make it easier to change the oil. And I found this. It says works but needs new contacts, so we'll clean them up. That's another 59 Chevy clock. So somewhere I have one more. This is the other one I have. And then I got this one. This one works. I cleaned the contacts. It kept time for about 4 or 5 days, and then I just boxed it back up. So I have this one, and I'll clean that one when I get time. And somewhere I have a fourth one. But anyway, I also found these bearings to put in the wheels to replace those cheesy ones. When I take it apart to paint it, I'll put these in, and may find some different tires. We'll see. These tires are, you know, they're cheesy Harbor Freight. And I found this. This is one of the sway control bushing setups on the Bel Air. One of them's in the grommets and everything. It's pretty bad shape, so I'll change that too yet this winter. So that will be for the Chevy. This will be for the Trikeabout, and we'll clean that clock in another video. We're right in the middle of a freezing rain winter storm. There's actually an ice storm warning out, and the driveway's a sheet of ice, but I want to try and I put a spring on here, and I want to see where I pull it. I got this set to full RPM. Where I pull it to where I get the RPM I like, and I'll make a mark on the cable, and that's where I'll hook the spring. I don't care how much you got to move it before it starts pulling it, and I'll make it so it stops up there, and it might, you know, push the spring around, but I'm not too worried about it. I just want I just don't want to overspeed the engine. And I kind of hooked it right there. I couldn't hook it there because there wasn't enough room, and I didn't want to drill a hole out. And I don't want that spring binding on the linkage, and it easily clears it there. And I took the belt off because I'm going to use my old Stuart Warner tachometer here to, it spins this and that. It'll go either way. Tells you your shaft speed. This is what it is. Model 757W. Directions in the other rubber tip. Cap. So anyway, we'll get this out and give it a try. So we'll see what it idles at too. I did turn the idle back up a tad. I had it down to where you can almost count the flywheel going around. It really runs nice. Anyway, let me get it going, and we'll put the tack on it. I have tightened that spring up a tad on the recoil there. It's still cold, so let me get it warmed up, and then we'll do it. I just want to show the recoil working there, so let me get it warmed up. This is just idling. So it looks like about 550 RPM on the cam. I'm going to make that about 1500 full throttle, which is right there. And I moved this, I actually pulled this quite a bit. Sounds like it's running a little rich. Maybe a little lean. Alright, let me get the carburetor tweaked. It's really cold, so that's why it's running the way it is. Well, after much horsing around, the engine wasn't running right, and it was just gas tank had run out of gas. So I put some gas in it, and there we are going again. So let me get my little tachometer out, and we'll set the RPM. engine's governor is rated for. Alright, so I made a mark where I got to bend the cable for a wide open throttle, and the recoil I tightened a spring on it so the handle stays in. You can see where I made a little mark on the cable, so I got to coil the spring up, or the cable up, so it connects to the spring there, but I want to be able to take the spring out so I can take the cable off, take the engine off, so I'm going to loop it a couple of times loosely so the spring can just kind of twist around on it. So let me get that done, and then I'm going to make a stop. I had the blower housing off, and I drilled a hole back in here for a wire, so I'm going to drill another hole there, and I'll feed a wire up and fish it out somehow. That's all I'm going to do for now, so I can take it apart, but you can clearly see it'll work. That'll be stop, obviously slow, run, and then fast. I think that's going to work out just fine. I'll loop that around once I put it all together so that the spring doesn't come out, but for now that'll work just for trying it out to see if I don't have it right. I can move the cable and I'll just loosen that up and move it, but I think it'll be pretty close, if not right on the money. Let me set you up here so you can see the loud. I think the next thing I'm going to do is make a muffler. I'm going to put the stop wire on it. This is the stop wire. So I'm going to hook something up to there to shut it off. But I'm going to turn the gas valve back off. I didn't realize I was going to start it back up right away. Otherwise I would not have run the carburetor out of gas. It runs quite a while on a float of gas. But anyway, I'm going to fire it up and just let it idle until the carburetor's dry again. Then I'm going to take it in and work on the stop. I don't need to run it again. Then I might start working on a muffler so it's not so loud. There we go. The cable routing looks nice too. You can see I put that thing there. Yeah, I think that electrical wire not hanging down there. Like I say, I bored a hole right about where my finger is there. Well, I guess it's not gonna, right there. Right there, and I'm gonna run the wire inside here. I'm gonna drill a hole right here, maybe about a 1/4 inch hole, so I have enough room to fish the wire out, and then I'll make something so when that gets to there, it stops the engine. I wired the stop up. You can see I kind of just made a simple little thing. I put a bunch of, about three things of shrink wrap on the thing that looked like that here. And then I put the wire over it, and then I put another shrink wrap, and then of red, and then a black one there, so that it doesn't, come off, and that comes down and touches it. That's pretty secure. That's not going anywhere. I drilled a hole in the frame and ran it to the back down here where it goes into the engine. There's a little butt connector right there so I can unplug it, and there's probably a few extra inches of wire that I just shoved up in there so I could pull that connector out to unplug it, or if I need to redo something, I don't have too short of a wire. I have extra, I looped this up that way in there as I was, as I had a bunch out here, so I fed it up in there further so I can just so I can pull this out if I want. But I pulled the spark plug. I'm not going to start the engine. And it has spark, as you can see, and then put the handle down. And it doesn't have spark. Put the handle back up. And we got spark again. And that's pretty good spark considering it's grounded on a painted surface there. But yeah, so that the engine stop works, the governor works, and next I'm going to make the muffler. I don't know if this will show up or not, but there's a huge ice storm going on. It's nighttime, but this tree just fell on my house. You can see and the sky is lighting up from all the power lines that trees are falling on. You can hear the buzzing. I don't know if you could just hear that buzz and the popping. And when the city guy from the city came out and cordoned this off, he stated we're about the only street in the whole city that still has power. Yeah, I've been hearing transformers explode, and yeah, it's just nuts. We're under an ice storm warning. Hear the sirens. Now the wind's picking up. It was dead calm, but now the wind's picking up, and that's going to make things worse. I'm going to turn the light off. Maybe that'll give you a little bit better. Let's see. No, that made it worse. Anyway, it's cold out here. Alright, I'm back to work on the REO making a muffler, and it's just kind of working out what about the shapes and whatnot. And I'm gonna make a total paper pattern, then cut it out of metal. But I'm waiting on we had a really bad ice storm last night or yesterday into the night, and a huge tree branch broke off front tree and landed on the roof of the house, and it's a city tree, so the city's gonna take the branch down, but I'm waiting on the insurance company to call me back. You know, there's hundreds of thousands of people without power and trees down everywhere, so it might be a while before they get at it. So nothing I can do about it, and I don't want to damage the house further trying to take the tree down myself. I went up in the attic, and the roof doesn't look to be compromised. Nothing, no water, nothing was leaking in, no structural damage. So hopefully the house is okay, though it may need reshingling. It's obviously going to need a new gutter. It didn't break the windows in the dormer, so things are not as bad as what they could be. But it was a brutal ice storm, and it caused significant damage around the area. And anyway, so there's nothing I can do about what's going on in front, so I'm just out here working on this. I'll give you a quick glimpse of out in front, though. You can see some of the stuff here. Still freezing, drizzling. Go out here and show you a little bit. You can see it definitely looked like it had some rot in there. Yeah, it's definitely a mess. I think that branch is going to have to come off too. Maybe the whole tree come down. Now I got it totally made out of paper the way I like it. It's it'll have baffles, you know, I'll make baffles in there, and so the engine isn't so loud, but this will kind of be attached to the, I'll have to unbolt the motor and tilt it down, probably take the wheel off to turn the pipe thread on. But that's about, and it's because the engine's back a ways, so if it's forward it'll be up in here, or if it's all the way back it'll be about there. But that's okay, I kind of like it sticking out a little bit behind, make it a little bit more visible. I'll paint it high heat black. The muffler is just kind of roughed in. I'm not, I got to make baffles and, you know, fit everything up, but I cut the coupling in half, and I'll bore a hole there and weld it to that, tack it to that. After I get the muffler all done, I'll tack it so I get it nice and square, and then I'll weld it up solid, take it off. I'll probably have to take the wheel off at least, if not unbolt the engine to tip it to screw the muffler on and off, but that's no big deal how often it's going to be removed. Well, a tree service is here, and they're gonna take 2 main branches down because the trunk is all rotten, and they may take the whole tree right to the ground, which would be totally okay with me. I've been trying to get the city to take it down for years because it's just a nasty, messy tree. It just makes a mess all the time. Branches always coming down off of it. But anyway, there they are. I'll let them get the job done, and I'm going to go work on my muffler some more. Kind of what it looks like, and it's going to weld to that. Like I said, I'm going to tack it on so it's nice and square, and then I'm going to take it off and weld it up and grind all the welds out really nice so you don't even see the welds. And then I'm going to square up this and get that all looking good too on the belt sander. I was thinking of putting a bevel on it, but I'm not really mad about the way that looks. I held it up with a bevel. But let me get this tacked on. That is all tacked in place. Tacked it on the elbow there, so I'm going to pull that off and weld it up solid, grind it out, and then we'll install it and see how it sounds. There is the muffler all made. I got to bead blast it and paint it yet, but I mainly cleaned up the welds where you see them. Like, you don't see these, you won't see any of this back in here or that. I mean, you know, it'll be down underneath here, but I wanted the outlet end to look good, so I went out of my way to sand that good. And so anyway, what I'm going to do now is this thing isn't light. It's made with fairly thick steel, as you can see. So I'm going to weld a piece of this band iron here to it, and I'm going to run it. I'm going to probably weld it here. I'm going to run it to this bottom engine mount here, the bolt that holds the engine on, and that way when I move the engine fore and aft, the muffler will move with the engine. And yeah, I'm going to have to take the plasma cutter when I take it all apart to clean welds and paint. I'll cut this out for the exhaust. I was going to cut it all out but for the oil drain, but I'm going to put a short nipple, a 90 degree, and just put the oil drain right here. And that way, you know, it won't make a mess. Probably won't have to change oil in it very often. You know, I mean, for what little I'll run it, probably every 5 years or so. But I do want to be able to change oil in it, especially this first oil change, because, you know, it's the break-in oil, I guess, so to speak. It's got maybe 20 minutes on the oil now, and it'll probably have maybe, I'll put this on, we'll get it going. So it might have 30 minutes on the oil when I'm all said and done, but we'll change the oil before we start running it a lot. So anyway, let me get this threaded back on here. All I got to do is lift this up, and it turns right on, turns right off. It clears everything under there and sits there nicely, and then I'll get that measured up and cut and welded on, and then we'll paint the thing, and the muffler will be done. I'm going to paint this with high heat flat black, a high heat, high temp paint. But you can see the baffle down in there. I just cut the holes in the baffle with my plasma cutter, and there's 3 baffles. There's one here, and one here. And yeah, you know, some of you might complain that it's not going to allow the engine to breathe, but it'll be plenty fine. I mean, this thing's, you know, 1 3/4, 2 horsepower tops. I think it's rated at 1 3/4 or something like that. And, you know, and I'm going to be running it maybe, you know, a 3rd throttle, so it's going to be like a 3/4 horse motor at the most. And this muffler will just be fine. I just don't want the engine barking ultra loud, and I think that'll quiet it down a bit, hopefully. Well, I think the muffler is ready for paint. Gave it a quick bead blast, and like I say, that's going to be plenty of outlet. You can see what the original muffler had for an outlet. Just a little slit on each side, about maybe halfway around the muffler, from about there to there. That which would be like there to there. See those two dots? That's the outlet between those two dots on each side. So I don't think this is going to restrict the engine exhaust one bit. So let me get it off. I'm going to put some paint on it so it doesn't rust. I don't know why. I guess, you know, this is all bare metal, but I finished the welds, so I guess I could paint it. And once I got to straighten this a little bit right in here. It's kind of bent, but I made this so it's level. It might look funny here right now because this is bent, but when I take it all apart to finish the welds and finish everything, I'll straighten this and the fender and everything else that needs work. Anyway, let me blow some high heat black on that. We'll install it. I had to take out both the rear engine bolts to clear this from the bolts. And the one on this side, I'll put a little longer bolt in it and it'll just be double nutted. I can put a double nut on it right now with this bolt, but I'll just put a slightly longer one in that hole. And anyway, it came out nice. I'm totally happy with it. And that's a high heat paint that I'm going to use. It's Rust-Oleum. There we go. You can see how I did it up underneath there. So it's supported. And we'll move with the engine if I ever have to adjust the position of the engine. Shoot a little steam out, a little moisture there, so it gets warmed up, but it's fairly quiet. Stop that thunder from rattling. Yeah, I think once the steam boils out, it looks kind of cool. Looks like a car. You can see it's really humid. It's cold, humid. They had a bad ice storm. Need to make a thing that holds the belt so it doesn't pull. You know, that keeps the belt out of the pulley. See how I like it'll creep, and then I do this and it stops creeping. So I'll just take a little pin from just like garden tractors and stuff. So I think it's basically ready to start making the sheet metal. I'm going to put a little pin here, make one that threads into that plate so it can be removed to change the belt. But all in all, I think it's ready to go. The engine hunts a little bit because that spring, I'll probably have to put something from this through it. So see how it bounces? Rattle, so it picks that up, picks the fender rattle and all up. But yeah, that's pretty cool. That exhaust came out nice. Really happy with it. It rides pretty good, and like I say, I'll just, so it doesn't creep, just a little pin. There we go. Basically it's done other than the sheet metal. I'll make a pin like I say for the belt, and then I'll start making some sheet metal, and then I'll start grinding all and finishing all the welds and do the body work, and I'll strip it right down, back down to the bare frame, take the fender off, completely disassemble it. But I think I'll be making the sheet metal on this end, doing what I need to on the rocker panels of the Bel Air at the same time. But I wanted to just basically get this thing 100% rideable. And I actually rode it on the grass too earlier before I started videoing, and it goes fine in the grass too. It really goes about the right speed too. It's not too fast, not too slow. It's just kind of right. Maybe 10 miles an hour, 15. But then I wasn't giving it full throttle either. But I'm super happy with it. It's gonna look really cool. Couldn't be happier. All right, I'm gonna wrap this video up here so you can see what I've been doing. If you like the video, definitely hit the like button. It helps. If you like my channel, that 348 engine icon there will subscribe you. And thank you for watching my video.